Hello, Union family. I'm Charles with American Workers First. This is Union Facts Friday, and today we're talking about minimum wage in the United States. The first successful minimum wage laws date back to the Australian state of Victoria in the early 1890s. They were a response to what we would now call sweatshops. The term sweatshops come from what was referred to as sweated labor that originates in the 1830s, where a middleman, called the sweater, oversaw clothes makers in horrible conditions. The factories doing this used a sweating system, and hence the term sweatshop was born. Jump over to America, and a group of female reformers fighting against sweated labor in the United States formed the Consumers League of the City of New York, where they started boycotting products made under harsh conditions. In 1899, they united with the National Consumer League parent organization, and in 1908, at an anti-sweatshop conference in Geneva, Switzerland, learned of Australia's minimum wage legislation. Using that knowledge, the Women's Trade Union League, working in partnership with the NCL, passed the first minimum wage legislation in Boston, Massachusetts on June 4th, 1912. It established a state commission for recommending minimum wages for women and children. Thank you, ladies. The following 2 decades, multiple states passed similar laws. In 1933, the National Industrial Recovery Act, created during the New Deal era under the Roosevelt administration, was passed, creating a set minimum wage and maximum hours on an industry and regional basis. But that act was later ruled unconstitutional as the Supreme Court found that it violated Fifth Amendment rights under the liberty of contract. It wasn't until finally in 1938 that the Fair Labor Standards Act was passed, which again created a minimum wage in America that stuck, as in 1941 the Supreme Court upheld the act, finding that Congress had the power under the Commerce Clause to regulate employment conditions. Since then, the federal minimum wage has been raised 22 times by 12 different presidents. However, the minimum wage was not set to rise with inflation, which means that it requires a congressional act to be increased. The current $7.25 an hour has not been raised since 2009, even though inflation has gone up over 20%. The stated purpose of the minimum wage was to keep America's workers out of poverty and increase purchasing power to stimulate the economy. President Roosevelt being on record saying that under his watch, no American was going to starve in this country, and that it seems to me to be equally plain that no business which depends for existence on paying less than living wages to its workers has any right to continue in this country. By business, I mean the whole of commerce as well as the whole of industry. By workers, I mean all workers, the white-collar class as well as the men in overalls. And by living wages, I mean more than a bare subsistence level. I mean the wages of a decent living. Thanks for joining us on Union Facts Friday. We will see you next week, and until then, keep demanding that American workers get put first.